What's up? It's me, Pez Flips, and today we're talking about this fella right here. I want to say it's like the CKSR clone by Arm Shark. It's originally, I want to say Cerrone Knives, which is an Italian maker, makes this. So yeah, I have not actually flipped him as much as I would like to. And I think that there's a pretty good reason for that. And it's an interesting part about this knife is that it just is very different. I think that this blade, by virtue of just, you can kind of guess what's happening here. All the weight is concentrated here toward the tip. And what happens is you don't have a spine. When you don't have a spine for like doing a fan trick or something, you need kind of weight distributed throughout. And yes, there is a spine of sorts to the blade, but it doesn't have a lot that gives it that fanning. So you have to like hit this window of fanning kind of perfectly, and then it will still wobble. And I think part of that too is the combination of that being a lot of hot weight and this being a lot of hot weight. So when I have been flipping this thing, it's really fun. Like I do enjoy flipping with it, especially because there is no bite handle. But it's also not like a serious thing. I think to some extent, it's kind of like almost like one of those novelty things, like a UFO, where it just is very non-standard. And this one is closer to the actual balance, so you can flip this, whereas like the UFO is kind of a much more of a stronger oddity. But this one is just a little awkward. It's got the wobbly fan, and rollovers are like oddly like very, very sticky. The chaplains are really good. Chaplains are fine. But it's also kind of heavy feeling. Feels a little slow. Like not really nimble. I don't always have an idea of where the balisong is going to be ending up at. And things like fans, like out of non-standard things like that, are really hard. So any sort of tech that uses like a little bit more of a subtle momentum shift is really going to struggle to engage in some of these quicker fans. It's possible. Don't get me wrong, it's possible, but it's just a lot more cumbersome. It's a lot more effortful to actually accomplish those things. In my short, I said that this was the most even balisong, and I think the Buffness was actually confused by that. He's the one who commented on it. But, I mean, if you look at it like so, it kind of makes sense. This is a completely symmetrical blade, or completely symmetrical knife, that is. And because of that, it flips like that. Now, I don't think that just because something's even necessarily makes it good. But especially with something that has two safe sides, it's really interesting because when you are flipping, like I actually lose track of like where the safe handle and where the bite handle are. Whereas like I have a better sense of that with other knives because you can kind of feel the difference between the safe and the bite handle, because you're always going to have like a little bit more material on like one side, whereas like the grind side is going to have a little bit less material. So while it's a subtlety, you can kind of feel it, especially in the fans, kind of like the timing of getting those things out. And with this one, because it's symmetrical, it just feels the same. Like you don't feel it. You don't notice that feeling really. So then you get kind of lost, but it's fun though. It's like you kind of just turn your brain off and flip. It's a trainer and it's double-sided. And yeah, I mean, it's just fun. Like this is what this thing is a unique balisong that just doesn't flip like other balisongs. Now, I know I've heard some people say that they just can't flip this, and I could believe it. I mean, it is very non-standard, but if you give it more time, you can kind of figure it out. Like I said, I don't think it's unflippable. It's just kind of awkward at some points. And then, like, because of that, like, if you're really trying to approach a balisong like this and you just love the design, you would just have to understand where the weaknesses are and then, you know, utilize those moves less in your combos. You can still use them, but you don't want to highlight like one of the main deficiencies of this knife. I mean, that's a larger topic for like all knives, but like this one is definitely going to be like your rollover chaplain friend, because that's really what it's made for. It's just made for rollovers. It's kind of made for ladders. Little slippery on the ladders. I've mentioned this before where I don't know why it is the ladder specifically, but it is very hard to keep this thing in the same path. Like, even though the handles aren't like that crazy in terms of that dimension, I don't know what it is about it. I think maybe it's the combination of like the blade weight being kind of weird, because when you are doing it, all of that weight is concentrated out on the end. And if you get it off to like a slight angle, it's going to be a lot more significant because the one point is at the very end. Because if that weight was like, you know, in the middle or something like that, the distance traveled, like left or right, is not going to actually like impinge or like get in the way of the momentum changing a different way. But because it's all at the end, it's going to move a lot more too. It's going to have a more significant effect. You know when you're like on an office chair and you start spinning around and you like hold your arms in and you spin really, really fast, or then you like open them up and then they spin really slow? That's kind of what's happening here, is that it has like a more pronounced effect on the entire balisong when you're trying to do stuff. So like doing ladders is going to be more sensitive to like if you get off kilter a little bit. You can kind of correct it, like I just corrected it there, but I will say the tolerances on this thing, very good. I don't even think I've oiled this one today. And I think that this sound on this guy is just awesome. This ring, one handle will ring more than the other one. But what is interesting is that the one that doesn't ring as long still holds a stronger lower note, like a lower frequency, whereas the other one had like still kind of has the low note, but only really carries the higher pitch sound. So if you're doing a combo and you're staying on the same handle, and you see as soon as I change it, that ringing stops. But what that makes is that when I've been flipping it, I have been like trying to stay on the same handle and then just keep that sound going, which is like super cool. Like, I don't know, it's created a creative avenue for flipping, something that I hadn't really given as much thought, and now I'm getting kind of like a situational reinforcer to continue to do those kind of flips, because, you know, knives sound cool. So tolerances have been good. I still, one of the best things I love about this thing is the machining on the inside of these handles, or on the outside, excuse me. I think they might be, yeah, they're on the inside too. Like, you don't see machining like this on knives, and this is the one spot I feel like they're always missing out on, and it feels really cool, and it actually does give it something. It feels less slippery, especially with the weight and stuff. Having a little bit of additional grip, never going to be a bad thing. I'm also a guy who's like, I'm going to take grip over comfort. I don't think that this is an uncomfortable balisong, but it is like a slightly more abrasive one. So like if you aren't ready for that, that could also be a little, you know, not great for you, but I just don't think, I think you can get used to a knife being quote unquote uncomfortable. So anyways, last thing is, I think that if you are getting this, you might want to wait for other people, because I've heard that this blade shape is not being sold right now. They're like doing a different one. So somebody commented on a different video of mine, and they mentioned that they had purchased one, and then it turned out that they had this blade profile. Profile had been sold out, and they created the new one, which is a bit more clear as to which side is like the safe and which is the bite handle. but it's a different shape, so I don't know how that one flips. So basically, everything I'm saying here could not apply to that particular knife. I mean, I don't know if it does or not, but that is something to be aware of, is that I only see them selling, at least at this moment, the other kind with whatever that blade shape is. So, I mean, fun flipper, very unique, not really that competitive, and has some flaws, but overall, I'm satisfied with it as like a collection item. So there you go. Those are my thoughts. Bye.